I've been on a watch list since the day I was born, but the gangstalking didn't really take off until I made a few wrong moves. In this game, don't think you won't make a wrong move, and don't think you won't get hit. That's just part of it all. Many will quit there, but not me. My name is John Falcon, and I am a targeted individual. I've been watched, gangstalked, and targeted for EMF and voice-to-skull harassment. This is part 1 of my 3-part story, so stay tuned for this gruesome affair, the journey to overcome of John Falcon.
Finding yourself in the talons of an owl and the shadows of the forest moonlight, it's a gruesome affair.
I will never forget what my father said when I was talking with him about the relentless attacks, surveillance, harassment, and outright gangstalking I was experiencing. "You don't know how to be a good surveillance target," he said. That one hit hard and is still settling in now. That's the thing about warfare. You can't control what the opposition does, but you can control what you do. It feels like a tough situation, but the reflection is that the opposition is in the same predicament. They can only control their moves. And when you know their tactics and know their patterns, and know when you are trying to be undetected and covert versus when they want to be detected, well, suddenly you find yourself as the one with the upper hand. When they are operating in a manner to purposely be detected or walk the fine line in the aim to make you feel like you might be crazy, that is like when the perfect, masked, implacable lover gaslights you. She is perfect. Her words are sweet and loving. She says she really cares. But the truth is, her plan for you is demonic, sinister, and absolutely putrid. She wants you to seem like the crazy one. She wants to be perceived as the victim. The perfect, masked, implacable lover is a skilled manipulator who can only love you in the way that a spider can love a fly caught on its entangled web. It's a trap from the beginning. It was created to catch exactly you. And there you are in the mists of it all, being told sweet nothings to try to calm your growing anxiety. She wants you to be seen as the abuser. It is DARVO, D-A-R-V-O. Deny, accuse, reverse victim offender. She will try and get you to actually abuse her too. When you do not abuse her, this will frustrate her. She has nothing to show for her illusion of victimhood. The trucker hitchhiker wants you to drive in the storm. He doesn't care about your sanity. No, he just wants you to drive in the storm. And if you do go insane, the trucker hitchhiker is very effective indeed. When you refuse to fulfill his wish, he vanishes into thin air. The footprints in the snow wander a few steps from the truck parked on the snowy roadside. Beyond that, nothing. You wonder if he was even real. You realize later that the trucker hitchhiker didn't even want to go anywhere. He just wanted you distracted, stressed, and in danger. Those were the pure intentions. The agent Smiths are there to keep you in your mental prison. They will materialize in the form of a friend, a coworker, the disapproval ugly face of a Karen at the store. They want to keep you under control of the program. Cross that chalk line, do some research of your own, ask some important questions, and Agent Smith will manifest before you to try to push you back into your mental prison. Gain enough strength and wisdom, and Agent Smith becomes like a high-pitched barking dog. Indeed, a nuisance, but not a threat to your aim and your intentions. You know who you are and what is what. When you finally get to that point, that's what it is. Your spirit is worth all this investment by the opposition because your spirit is valuable. You can define your goals and achieve them, or allow them to trick you into giving your power away, giving it to them. It is just an energy harvest. It's nothing personal. My father was an elite skills military trainer. This is why I've been on a watch list my entire life. I was born into a family of US military personnel. We knew about COINTELPRO, Operation Paperclip, and our family was just ordinary American history. Kind of like George Washington Civil War stuff was just a part of history in the indoctrination camps called school. For most, these things are like WikiLeaks posts that they will never read or see, even though the information is publicly available to anyone who seeks it, but most will never seek. They will never ask. They are imprisoned by their own fear of the truth. The illusion is just too good and too easy for them. Which elite division did my father train and instruct in? Well, he will take many secrets to the grave. We all will. My father was an instructor in the SEER group. SEER, S-E-R-E. If you are unfamiliar with what SEER stands for, it is survive, evade, resist, and escape. These words are the specific skills that the group teaches. You already know too much information about this now. Elite field specialists are required to fulfill this training before being actors in foreign territories. As a person who grew up in a high-clearance military family, I want to say a few things about intelligence agencies, police, and skilled individuals that do the, let's say, heavy lifting for the government, private enterprise, and the alphabet agencies. I believe there has to be a wolf at the door. It's just the truth. Like in James Wesley Rawls' book, Surviving the Coming Collapse, once the grid goes down, the lights and communication systems are cut off, the prisoners escape the prisons, and the elite seal off their survival bunkers, well, there is going to be a little bit of chaos. Follow the logic here. The escaped convicts, existing street gangs, and any armed and skilled groups will form gangs and wander the country, pillaging and doing much worse stuff I won't say, and eventually warring with each other. The winning gangs and conglomerates of criminal gangs will eventually run out of things to rob and pillage, and at that point, the very gang that conquested and won and rose to the top of the other gangs will become the operating government. In James' book, the gang is called the Knights of Templars. They will be the ones that provide security at the first trade market, where things like bread and eggs can be exchanged between people who produce them and those that are willing to trade for them. The gang, the Knights of Templars, well, they will provide security at this market. They will ensure that people follow the rules, and they will take a cut of the income. Anyone buying or selling must give a portion to the Templars for their security. Well, these last sentences tell a lot about how governments form. Then they get bureaucratic. They don't have to use violence. The violence is avoided almost altogether by being more of a threat of violence for non-compliance of their rules. One day, that gang will make a rule that you have to use paper straws to save the environment. And here we are. As you pull the paper straw out of its plastic wrapper, you will have a WTF moment where you realize things have gone too far. They've gotten too ridiculous. And things are not making sense, no matter how trendy it is to pretend that it does make sense. Now we know why Bob Marley was always singing about hypocrites. I accept the predicament we are in, and I respect cops. Well, I respect the honest ones. The French police who refused to shoot rubber bullets at the Paris protesters in 2023. I like those cops a lot. They are actually serving their people, and they are not carrying out orders by a criminal regime with the aim against the people. As for the Gangstalkers, I definitely like them less than even the bad cops, but they don't know what they are doing. For some, it is just a job. When you know as much as I do, I even see the gang stalking activity wax and wane during the quarter based on the budget of the syndicate funding it. And that's the thing about government agencies, covert or not. They have to spend their budget. Once a gang stalking program is in place, The organizers of it need more and more targeted individuals to justify their expenditures. They must spend their budget in order to justify keeping the gravy train rolling each quarter, and ideally, find more targets in order to expand the program. So, my father is out in the field training highly skilled specialists. They are the agent provocateurs that show up at events to help them get violent for the news report, where they will reframe the protesters as being violent even though they weren't. It's society-level gaslighting to keep the agenda on schedule and sculpt public opinion, even though the agenda is not in the interest of the public. Those specific agents are low-skilled and low-cost. Some of those guys just get paid with gift cards to Walmart or McDonald's or wherever. It sounds like a joke. I wish it was. If one finds themselves in SEER training, well, one is a chess piece that is going to be used for bolder moves in foreign territories. SEER, S-E-R-E, training breaks many people. The participants agree in advance that they may experience multiple bone fractures from the training itself, which can include survival, physical abuse, imprisonment, and can even go as far as mock executions. A trainee needs to demonstrate their abilities. They may be dropped off in a forest during freezing temperature winter conditions without any supplies, without water, without a jacket, and without any tools whatsoever, just left there, left for dead in the remote snow-covered hostile environment. Without training or help, most people will die. That is what the training is for. The first letter is S, and it stands for survive. If the trainee survives the conditions and solves key survival issues like temperature and sourcing water, the next stage of the test begins. During this phase of the test, the trainee may be followed, ambushed, attacked, and fired at. During this phase, the trainee's goal is to evade capture and confrontation. If caught, the trainee will be physically beaten, possibly to the point of broken bones, as mentioned before. This will only be minor, of course, by design. They are trying to make an elite soldier, not destroy their asset. He will be taken into custody by his would-be captors. His goal now is to resist. Once taken to a mock camp, the trainee is a POW, prisoner of war, where the abuse will continue and intensify. The trainee will be starved. He will be sleep-deprived. He will be ridiculed. He will be tortured. He might actually have those broken bones at this point. He will be tired, malnutritioned, painfully injured, and with no tools, no weapons, no supplies. He is imprisoned by a hostile enemy and their agents. His job at this point is to escape. If the trainee survives and succeeds to survive, evade, resist, escape, he is indeed amongst the few. He is a walking American asset and ready for field work where his endurance and skills have a high probability of being necessary. The future ambushes he will face, future imprisonments, and future torture and interrogations will not be mock exercises. They will be real. You have to be ready for anything. And of course, as always in this game, survival is never guaranteed. No. That part of the game is up to you. Just like here, on American soil, civilian life, the opposition is taunting you in all their various forms. And of all the environments for warfare, the battle of humanity is, at its paramount, spiritual. It's ideological, and the primary battlefield is the human mind and the spiritual soul. The technology they are using in 2024 is unreal. It's covert. It's hyperdimensional. It's electromagnetic. It's focused and targeted. They can scan memories and know which ones are real and which ones are made up. They want to know an individual better than he knows himself. Philip K. Dick's Minority Report is very real already now in 2024. It is very real right here, right now, in New York, in Atlanta, Georgia, in Copenhagen, Denmark, and all over Earthrealm. Growing up, we knew we were on a watch list. Our family, it is like veterans. They know things, they know the game, and they have skill sets that are, let's say, risky for certain power structures. People who do not know the game, they are not a threat. They are easy to manage. Bread and circus keeps them distracted. As Seneca said, the bread is almost free, and the next circus show is always being advertised today, whatever today happens to be. Also, unskilled people are not a threat. They don't have the technical skills to resist. Not in the desert, not in the icy mountainsides, not while squatting in Cop City in Atlanta, not in cyberspace, and certainly not in the most critical battlefields of them all, their own mind and their own soul. There is much more to the story, more to how the hierarchy works, how people are initiated. I can't spell it all out here now in this format, at least not in this story. I know my limits to what I can say, and like so many stories on Smoking Owl Tales, even the watered-down version is just unreal. I made a wrong move. I brought a chainsaw to a political protest. It was simply a bad move. It was not illegal. It was just bad judgment on my part, especially with my background. Part of being a good surveillance target is staying low profile. Sporting a chainsaw at a public event is not low profile. You will be noticed and logged. I am not proud of this part of the story. Sometimes we find the limit by going too far. But when you pull back, the damage is done. I am now a targeted individual. The surveillance has escalated from covert to overt. Overt meaning they want me to know. This is what gangstalking is. Surveillance is inherently a covert activity. So when they escalate it to purposely be overt, it is no longer surveillance. It is, at that point, intentional. It is harassment. It is done because, for most who are unskilled in how to be surveillance targets, it is very effective. In the final part 3 of this story, I am going to tell you my exact instructions on what to do and how to be a skilled, targeted individual. I claim no authority on this matter. This will simply be my take on how to play this game and keep your head above water. Truth is, winning this game is easy. The odds are in the target's favor. He or she just needs to have the knowledge, the confidence, and the skill set. The second part of the story is going to focus on my implacable, perfect, masked lover and her jealous ex, which is when the Voice to Skull, aka V2K, harassment started. I was targeted for V2K, electronic harassment, by a rogue agent, and in my case, it actually was personal. The first wave of being targeted started after the chainsaw episode. I wanted to put the rage in the machine. I never did participate in any of the anti-cop protests by the squatters in Cop City, Atlanta. I did do some disaster tourism just a couple days after one of the protesters was shot and lit up by a group of cops. I wanted to explore the Mock City in the park in Atlanta. That will be in part 3. They wanted me to question whether I am going crazy. It was just enough gang stalking to make me notice, and not enough to think it was anything. It's like the perfect masked, implacable lover tells you she loves you when you know she is plotting to destroy you with incremental, deliberate, and calculated moves. There were people watching me. They tampered with my motorcycle. They never destroyed my property. The damage or effect would always be something that could be fixed with basic tools or less than $100. They did things that didn't make sense. They removed specific bolts from my motorcycle. They disconnected the link to the throttle on my motorbike. The gangstalkers can be all ages, male or female, And sometimes they are a character you would not have expected. Once you know though, you know. Some are highly paid, and like I mentioned earlier, some are paid small amounts in transfers, cash, crypto, and a very common one is gift cards. I remember a woman at Walmart pointing her phone at me while holding a gift card between her fingers. This is a theme with them pointing their phone at me. You can't make this stuff up. Sometimes the Gangstalkers show remorse. One apologized to me. One 20-something young athletic man looked at me from a park bench. He pointed his phone at me. He made a stop signal with his hand and then looped his hand around and pointed at the bench where he was sitting. It seemed like he was signaling, "Stop. Keep distance. Come back here after I leave." I received the message. After he left, I went to the bench, and he had left a McDonald's gift card, new and with full credit on the bench for me. You can't make this stuff up. The gang stalking comes and goes. My wallet was stolen at the gym. Someone used my credit card to buy a bunch of stuff at Walmart. I would get calls at exactly 3 a.m. They would drive by my house late at night, and I kid you not, play that owl call just like played in the intro to Smoking Owl Tales. I would get sleep deprived. I knew I was being watched. I felt a little bit like I was going insane. I had to do a job in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I stopped to gas up, and while doing so, one dude wearing white AirPods walks past me in the gas station and politely asks me, "When are you going to Tennessee?" It wasn't even weird at that point. I answered his question. I just said, "I'll go when I'm ready to go." A Jeep Cherokee was riding at my speed, and the driver looked at me and flicked an AA chip at my truck. He trailed me a long way. Sometimes he was ahead of me, and sometimes behind. The Jeep Cherokee had a sticker on it. It said, "Monster," like Monster Beverage. And then under Monster, it said, "Your fear fuels us." Crazy. Yeah, Monster Beverage, with the 3 scratch marks as the logo, where each of the scratches on its own is the number 6 in Hebrew. 666. Yeah, that Monster Beverage. When you live in the city, the gang stalking and surveillance is everywhere. It's trickier to know who is watching in such a populated area. In rural areas, it is more clear, or it stops altogether. Honeypots are used a lot. It's a low-cost bargaining chip. Like John Perkins wrote in Confessions of an Economic Hitman, the author himself used honeypots as a tool in setting up the petrodollar system with the Saudi royal family. A good honeypot in the equation can make a man more agreeable. There are many good-looking and hot agents of the state, and agents of the Dark Kingdom. Many flaunt it. Many have monarch butterfly tattoos, and many have snake tattoos that they intentionally or subconsciously chose. They reel you in with the passion, the intimacy that is so craved. It is so tempting. Even as I write this story, there is a big topic that is surfacing about this, and many are realizing that it is real. Alcoholics Anonymous, also known as AA, has saved many lives. Count me in on that list. There really is something divine about it, about their message, and about people that are enslaved in the matrix by their own addictions while trying to crawl out of the hell that they are in. A person walks or crawls out of hell with one step at a time. It warms my heart to know that I am now clean and sober and vigilant, like instructed in scripture. The devil lurks at AA meetings too, of course. It's not an official AA thing, but certain local AA groups award sustained periods of sobriety with a chip. The chips are kind of like casino chips, and they are different colors. They are tokens of periods of sobriety and often have affirming quotes like, "One day at a time," or "To thine own self be true." Unity, service, recovery. The first chip that I was rewarded was the 24-hour chip. I didn't get the 1-week chip without falling off the wagon. You see, once you get a chip, you still can keep it even if you relapse. The next time you achieve 24 hours of sobriety, you don't get the same chip twice, but you keep doing the work. You keep feeling God's love and walking the path to try and get to the point where you get the 7-day chip. They will award chips at the 1, 3, 6, and 9-month markers. I never got my 1-year chip because I was clean and sober and no longer was going to the meetings. There was a woman at one of the meetings. She wasn't really trying to clean up her life. She was a gangstalker. She would show up, look me down, ask me questions, personal ones, and soon after the meeting started, she would just leave. When I realized exactly what was happening, it just felt like being in a low-budget movie with a cheap script and low-budget actors. It's the evil Truman Show. I quit and was clean anyway at that point. I don't even have the urge now. I build musical equipment. It's amazing. I would be followed, so I would take the driving Gangstalker on a ridiculous ride. There is a van with some fake company logo. There's no phone number written, which is suspicious to me. With this fake company van consistently trailing me, I would drive onto the 285, which is just a loop around Atlanta. They would continue following. Who drives the full loop? Well, I do, and so does the van following me. They follow just far enough that it's not too obvious, but close enough that actually it is kind of obvious. The original COINTELPRO has officially ended. It ended in 1971. The stated objective of the organization was to discredit and neutralize organizations considered to be subversive to U.S. political stability. Interpret that as you will. One of the organizations is now Infragard, which defines itself as a partnership between the government agencies and the private sector. This association includes persons who represent businesses, academic institutions, state and local law enforcement agencies, and other participants dedicated to sharing information and intelligence to prevent hostile acts against the U.S. There's a lot written there, but the amount of so-called experts they have working for them is unreal. It is 37,000. It states that the Center for Information Security and Awareness is CFISA for short, and the Member Alliance as being comprised of 84 separate Infragard member alliances, IMAs, representing over 37,000 Infragard subject matter experts, SMEs for short, nationwide. 37,000 subject matter experts. It's right there. You can read all about it on their own published website and documents. I'm just sitting here at the receiving end of all of this, but I would bet they have even more than 37,000 so-called subject matter experts, especially counting the low-key ones getting gift cards. It's pretty wild, and some gangstalkers are just the flying monkeys of some narcissist you know from some years back. It's kind of sad, kind of funny. Eventually, it just is what it is, some kind of evil Truman Show of sorts. Except the actors are nowhere near as talented as Jim Carrey, and they are pretty bad. In a way, when the bar is this low, which it is, the game is almost too easy to win once you understand it and see it for what it actually is. When you work for them, you do not say what you do. When they hire you, they do not tell you what you are going to be doing exactly. It is not always like Mr. Voice from that Smoking Owl Tales Confession of a Gangstalker story. It can be, but it's usually more like, hey, would you like to make a difference by helping keep our community safe? Join our community watch group. Benefits include flexible work hours, good pay, and healthcare coverage. For some, it is just some small assignment for a gift card, and then the compensation can come as something like, We'll even give you some bonus gift cards for volunteering as a member and helping create a secure and safe space for our diverse and dynamic growing community. The job attracts a lot of types of people. Some join with good intentions. Some just want something to do and something to be a part of. Some are recovering addicts or actually addicts, and they get recruited in their support groups. More on this later, but as a person that walked to sobriety with Alcoholics Anonymous, also known as AA, I see tons of gangstalkers lurking in their meetings. AA overall is an amazing organization, but just like Maria from that Gangstalker witch story who found her target at a church, a good place with mostly good people is exactly the kind of place where Jezebels, vampires, narcissists, and would-be gangstalkers go to find their targets and agents to be. A little something on Operation Paperclip. It's generally known that after the Nuremberg trials of World War II, 12 people were convicted for war crimes. Justice was served for them. Most of the stories, though, are untold. Some died, and I say that in air quotes, because the best way to disappear is to have people think that you are dead. But many came over to the US as scientists in medicine, in physics, in psychology, and in parapsychology. Remember, it was the German scientists who invented the jet engine and who were originally in the lead on nuclear weapon technology. Just a few agents sent to Norway disabled the German lead in pursuit of uranium enrichment. That was Operation Gunnerside, and it was absolutely one of the most important missions of World War II, destroying the Germans' lead on the development of nuclear weapons technology and allowing America to take the lead. Some of those German scientists had a lot of know-how, and after the war, their skills were put to the victors of America as they moved on and took up jobs in our universities, government, and private enterprises right here on American soil. However, an overlooked leg of Operation Paperclip is the Surveilance, which became the American COINTELPRO. It was a secret police, a psychological operation that includes information gathering, monitoring, and campaigns and operations to influence behavior. Surveilance, the name itself translates to decomposition or disruption. Their techniques for neutralizing threats to the state are covert, psychological, and abusive, with the aim of breaking people down and marginalizing them outside the false illusion of social normality. The tactics mostly work until you understand them. The truth is that NPCs outnumber people who have eyes to see, and the NPCs are incapable of seeing beyond that false illusion of social normality. They live in the illusion. The illusion is their reality. They know deep down inside, but these are the people that live for validation. They want to be sure that they do what other people do and are good at it too. They are the unwitting enforcers of the scripted status quo and its perimeter. But they are absolutely unable to see it, and they are absolutely unable to think. They are unable to think independently. The methods of the Surveilance get nasty when people cross the line of chalk, when they see through the illusion, see the truth and understand it, or cross that line of chalk, and you might find yourself on one of their lists. I've been on one of their lists, at least one of their lists, my entire life. That's the thing. If you know how it works, you're already on one of those who know lists. Take some action and you might get on one of those to watch lists. If you start gaining influence, you might get on one of those who are doing something about it, and this needs to stop lists. It's a little scary, but it's also kind of funny, because once everyone is on a list, it's almost the same as if nobody is on a list. The truth will prevail. This is good news for the Alliance. I've stepped beyond the chalk line, so I am a targeted individual. They watch, They point their cell phone at me with their gift card in their hand. They break into my house. They move things around in my home and in my car and make little adjustments to my motorcycle. Some of the Gangstalkers get the assignment to get into a car accident with their target. This is going to cost more than a gift card. So, if this happens to you, you must be quite an important target. There has always been gang stalking. I mean, the greatest known person in human history is literally a targeted individual who crossed the line written with chalk. His own government took the ultimate thing from him to silence him, and then he came back from the dead, and now we all know who he is, and we can read all about it and learn all about exactly what his message is. For the sake of transparency, I will summarize that message right exactly now in 2 words: love and forgiveness. I will repeat the transmission: love and forgiveness. We'll talk about this humanity-level, transformative message more in later stories. So, gang stalking has been a phenomenon since the beginning of time. You cannot stop the gang stalkers. You cannot control what they do, but you do have a lot of power because you have total agency and control over what you do, how you react, how you proact, meaning specifically what your plan is. You can't win a game without a strategy, without a plan, and without a skill set for gameplay. And don't tell me your plan. No, tell nobody. I think you've already told me too much. Revealing your plan is not wise. You have to keep your playbook for your spiritual war room and your spiritual guides and the angelic alliance in that room. Knowledge is power. Having a plan is direction. Putting in the time and work with self-discipline. This is manifestation. It is actually just this simple. It is all yours if you seek it. Some of those other videos, Instagram reels, they want you to think that you can manifest it in 10 seconds. This is not true. The universe wants to see you put in the work. Nobody says it is easy. If it was, everybody would do it. And nobody ever said it is a popular thing to do. What is popular? Have a look around and you will see for yourself. In America, the gang stalking programs really took off after the year 2001. There was a certain act passed that year. It was ironically called Patriot. If you have crossed the chalk line, they want you to be scared. They want you to be tired. They want your reputation slandered and smeared. They want a negative description attached to your name. Crazy, a loose cannon, a degenerate, a conspiracy theorist, schizophrenic, depressed, a cheater, an alcoholic, an abuser, anything. Anything as long as it sounds really bad. As long as it will make people not listen to, or even worse, it will make people not even think about what you say. Thinking is a danger. Thinking is a threat to the status quo. They want you sleep deprived. They want your system flushed with the stress hormone, cortisol. They want dangerous people who look intimidating around you, looking at you, low-key or maybe not so low-key, threatening you. They are watching how you react to all of this. Like that old guy in my neighborhood who walks by so many times wearing a jacket while holding a tablet while wearing white AirPods in his ear. He looks at me and holds up his hand and wiggles his finger at me. Sometimes at quarter ends, I don't see him. I think the program runs out of funding, and it needs another tax-funded cash infusion in that local group to keep the show going. Then the new quarter starts, and they are flushed with cash again, and will be doing their work in full. I will see that old guy again, and even the guy with some ideological flag I don't want to mention, who watches me while riding on an electric road bike. I am under 24-hour surveillance. I haven't even gotten to the electronic harassment part, the monitoring and the voice to skull yet. It is just unreal. It is called touchless torture. Did you know that the Wi-Fi box in your home can do more than send and receive information signals. A $35 standard Wi-Fi box is literally capable of performing three-dimensional sonar within a 50-foot range. It can even do this through walls. It sounds like an insane conspiracy theory, but as I have said about directed energy technology, the real tinfoil hat stuff can be read for free right there on the manufacturer's website if anyone cares to do a search and read. Most don't, most won't. Then there are the drones. Like the Wi-Fi transmitters, the technology is advanced, it is ubiquitous, and in 2024, it is low cost. I don't want to say that in the spirit of thinking that the technology is so powerful. A lot of the software is in beta. It bugs out for them. A drone is battery hungry, so they might leave you alone simply because they need to charge their batteries. A Wi-Fi transmitter only works when it's plugged in. They use those cheap rotate the dial timers as a tool in gangstalking, like in that confession story. Well, we can also route the power to the Wi-Fi through one of those same cheap rotation dial timers so that it is only on and powered up and activated when we need it to be. Simple, cheap, but only mildly effective. What else can the latest technology and Wi-Fi transmitters do? Well, a lot. Let's call it de-patterning a human mind. Unplugging it will not prevent the de-patterning. Do you have neighbors? Well, the signal can go through walls, and many weak signals is as good as one strong signal. Then there's the V2K, which is voice-to-skull technology. Some call it synthetic telepathy. Some call it microwave auditory effect. Some call it the Frey effect, and some just say it's voice-to-skull. Is the technology real? Well, the patent for it is from 1958. The inventor of it is Henry K. Puharich, who himself enthusiastically practiced predatory mind control in plain sight. Interestingly, this sociopathic genius also took interest in forbidden history and psychedelic drugs, even authoring a book titled The Sacred Mushroom, Key to the Door of Eternity. During the 1970s, new generations of V2K were established, like US Patent 395134A, titled Apparatus and Methods for Remotely Monitoring and Altering Brainwaves. Today, in 2024, V2K technology is so mature that there are even patents about how to identify and evade it. During 2019, a US patent, US 20200275874A1, was established with the title Methods and Automatic Systems to Identify Who Are Victims of Abuse, Voice-to-Skull, and Remote Neural Monitoring Technology, and identify who is the remote attacker or the operator using the device of voice-to-skull and remote neural monitoring. Anybody with a search engine can key in that patent number and read all about it. I can feel the electronic chatterbox in my head. It pairs with my thoughts. There are two places in my living space where the signal works even when my mobile phone is in a Faraday cage and the Wi-Fi transmitter is unplugged. These places are where I get the chatter in my head. The strongest is in my bedroom, close to one wall, and the other place is out by my truck. I know the power meter in the house and the street signs are also Wi-Fi transmitters that I cannot turn off legally. I can feel the signals with my skin. I can feel the tickling in my third eye. If you have had the devil's acupuncture, many say you can feel it even worse. So I keep the electromagnetic exposure to a minimum, which is a challenge. I try to get my 8 hours of sleep each night. I call that sleep thrived. And most of all, I try to keep a positive attitude and have faith that somehow through all of this invisible insanity, there is still going to be something coming in the future that is visibly awesome to experience. This is just part one of my story. I know I have spoken about a few episodes here, and I have, in a way, set up the scenario and made the table for the next part of the story. My name is John Falcon. I am a targeted individual. In the next part of this series, part 2 of 3, I am going to tell the tale of the relentless voice-to-skull attacks and relentless electronic harassment I have experienced. To top it all off, it started in connection with my relationship with a honeypot of darkness, a perfect, masked, implacable lover that came to me with words of love, but intentions of destruction. It's been awesome having you visit for this horrible tale. Dusk is a time of transition. It's an owl's wake-up call. As the shadows grow longer and darkness takes over, the only thing to fear is fear itself. You can also catch Smoking Owl Tales on Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, and X, the social platform formerly known as Twitter. A pure audio version of these tales is available as a podcast on Apple, Spotify for podcasters, Podbay, Google Podcasts, and TuneIn, amongst others. There continues to be multiple mind-blowing collaboration stories in the works, and many of them are based on real stories from listeners of the Smoking Owl Tales YouTube channel. If you feel the call, give a rip at the subscribe button and scratch at the comment. Smoking Owl now has released a debut track titled Eternal Soul. So now I know, I am an eternal soul. It is available on Spotify and all major streaming services. A link to the Spotify version of the track is available in the description, but you can find the track easily by searching Smoking Owl on your streaming service. So, when you're driving your second loop around the 285 in Atlanta and that company van with no phone number is still trailing you, you know which track to play. I am sincerely grateful for your presence here. So stay longer now or catch you on another night soon, because the story goes on and 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 on.